Hi, this is Andre. This is going to be a follow-up to the video I did from a week or two about making a glitch stutter effect in Effects Grid. So I had somebody ask me today in the comments on that video if it's possible to add shuffle to that patch, and it is possible to add shuffle to that patch, but it's a little bit weird doing it with effects. So I just want to kind of expand and show you how that would be set up. So first of all, this should be the same except for this. I saved over the patch on that video, so this one's the only thing I added since then was this, and then this little thing for overriding it, the knobs. So don't worry about all that stuff, but it should all be the same, except for though there's one thing I screwed up on that video. I had set this constant as 0.10, but it should be 0.01. And in case I move this somewhere around the patch, this is the constant that's feeding into this logic that controls the whether or not you're going to hear the live input or the recorders. So basically, if any of these sliders are above this value, 0.01, it switches the input to being from the recorders instead of being from the main audio. Okay. So anyway, though, if you followed that last video, all you would have to do is just change this value to 0.01, and then everything should be exactly the same. So if you want to add shuffle, you would just have to enable shuffle here and up here. You'll have shuffle, but right now you're only going to hear shuffle on the retriggers because, like I said, if these are down, you're hearing the original audio. So you can hear that now. Yeah, but those, let me turn these down to 2. It's a little hard to tell when they're that fast, so let me bring the values down a little bit, and you can hear that the shuffle will be working. So if we bring them all down, let's just bring them all down so that it's just above where it needs to switch over, and it's basically going to be on the first, so that they're going to be triggering this first one over here. So you can hear that's shuffled, and we can add retriggers. Okay, so that works. But one thing you'll notice that if you're playing it like that, it sounds very gated, and that's just because that's has to do with the gate length on these triggers. So if you wanted to extend that, you could just pretty much put a gate length, for example, right here, and just play with that value until it's high enough that it sounds less choppy, but you still don't want it too high, because if it goes too high, then it would go over the next trigger. Okay, so you could just play with that value. That value would depend on what tempo you're at, and then if you really wanted to get fancy with it, you could set up like a logic to read the tempo and then adjust these gates accordingly or something like that. I haven't done that, but again, for this effect, I wasn't really planning on running it like that. I was just planning on just having a little stutter here and there. So with something like that, I like it to sound gated because I don't know, that's just how I like it. And then if I was gonna do something like this where I wanted to sound better, I would probably do it in a sampler or a synth, or I guess not a synth. I would do this in a sampler. I would just export it as a loop and use it in the sampler, because so you can see one issue with this is the record is also being shuffled right now. The record and the play is being shuffled, but the original loop is perfectly quantized. It's this amen loop that's totally quantized to the grid. And I guess if you wanted to still do this in the effects unit, what you could do is basically just have two transports, have one of them with shuffle not enabled, and have that one be feeding the time that goes into these sequencers. So if anybody doesn't remember from that patch, these sequencers are what are feeding the record part of the recorder, and then this sequencer is what's feeding these merge and split modules going between these different retrigger amounts, and that's what's going into the play amount. So if you wanted to have swing or shuffle on an effect unit, I would probably do it that way. I haven't set it up yet like that, but like I was mentioning, if you were going to do this, it would probably work better on a sampler, because with the sampler, it's just going to hit cleaner and everything. So like I've set up a lot of samplers that have retriggering sequencers, and instead of the this retriggering sequencer triggering the play on the recorder, it would just simply retrigger. It would just simply send to the gate on the sampler. And then if anybody saw my sampler video from that first Bitwig video, I had a bunch of these sequencers that were controlling the position on the sampler so I could rearrange the beats. And the way that's done is, these are just, you have to convert the signal a little bit, but these are set to control the position on the sampler so that you can subdivide the sampler by like 32 or 16. And no matter what, either one of those, at least it's subdividing it perfectly. So if you're using loops that are totally quantized, it could subdivide them, and then you can, retrigger the play with swing, and it'll still sound fine. It's not going to screw up the transients because, if you have it like this right here, it's not going to sound quite right. Just having this one swung transport controlling all of it, because the transients might be a little bit off because of the swing, which you can probably hear. So yeah, it's not really a perfect way to do it. I would go for doing a sampler instead. But if you do want to do it in here, then probably just get a second transport, turn off shuffle, and have that one sending to the recorder devices, or to the record part of the record devices. All right, I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Bye.